Assalamu alaikum student. I'm your physics teacher from IYS school. So first of all, I like to share some instructions. Take a screenshot of every slide that will be shared and do the all home tasks on your fair copies. So today we start a new chapter that is electricity, and the topics are electrical nature of matter, insulator and conductor, electrostatic force, and Coulomb's law. So student, first we should know that what is this chapter is related to. We in a very dry weather, we have observed that our hairs get charged and it is stick straight up when we comb our hair, and when we comb our hairs and we brought it to the pieces of paper, so these papers will again attract toward it. So why it all happened? Can you tell me that why it all happened? It is all happened due to the electrical property of a matter. So first we have to understand that electricity is divided into two parts, that is static electricity and current electricity. So static electricity is about the build-up of an electric charge on the surface of an object, and it is called static because the charges remain in on one area rather than moving or flowing toward the another area. Means the charges will stick on the surface and do not move on the other surfaces. So that's the type of static electricity is known as static electricity. And now what about the current electricity? Current electricity means when we study charges, when we study the moving charges or the flowing of charges, so that type of electricity is known as current electricity. Okay, I hope you will understand that what is the difference between the static electricity and current electricity. And now to find that how the charge can be get by a matter. So first we have to understand that what will be the electrical nature of a matter. As we know very well that what is matter, and the smallest particle of a matter is atom or the molecules. So student, uh, tell me that do you know that atom is a positively charged particle or a negatively charged particle? Yes, you are right that atom is a neutral particle. That is, it does not have a positive or a negative charge. So why it does not have any charge? Because atom is composed of a very small particle, that is electrons, protons and neutrons. So these are the subatomic particles. And we know very well that the number of protons is equals to the number of electrons. And that's why we have atom as a neutral particle. So the number of protons is equals to the, as I told you that number of protons is equals to the number of electrons. So the protons have a positive charge particles and the electrons are the negatively charged particle. And when we and in an atom, the number of protons and electrons are same. So we can say that number of positive charges are equals to the number of negative charges. And that's why we say that atom is a positive neutral particle because it has a positive charge particles. It has a same number of electric charge particle. And that's why we say that it is a neutral atom. So protons cannot move and electrons move around an orbit. Protons and electrons have the same amount of charge, but their charges are opposite. As I told you that protons has a positive charge and electron has a negative charge. So when atom become charged, only the electrons move from atom to atom. So that is the reason that how the atom gets charged. Okay. So what will be the electric nature of matter? Uh, as you can see in a picture that we have protons and neutron in the nucleus and electrons are revolving around the orbit. Electron have a negative charge particle and protons are positively charged particle. So the number of electrons and protons are same, and that's why atom have a neutral particle. So, but we know that atoms get charged. So how the atoms get charged? Atom can be positive charge particle and atom could be a negative charge particle. So how the atom gets charged? If an atom gains an extra electron, the overall net charge on the atom is negative and the atom is called a negative ion. Okay. As I told you that atoms has electrons on their outermost orbit, and when these electrons are transferred from one atom to another atom, so the atoms get the charge. And now how they get a positive, when the atom get a negative charge and when the atom get a positive charge? When the atom they lose their electron, so it get a positive charge, and when the atom gains an electron, so it get a negative charge. Okay, that's why we say that negative ion and positive ion. What is negative ion and positive ion? If an atom gain an extra electron, means if the atom gain one electron from another atom, so the overall charge on the atom is negative. So why it get a negative charge? Because the number of electron has been increases, and due to the increase in the number of electron, it get a negative charge. And when the atom get a positive charge, if the atom loses an electron, the overall charge is positive. And how it is positive? Because the number of proton has been increases and the atom is called a positive ion. Okay. So the study of these charge separation is called static electricity or electrostatics. Yes, as you can see here, just generally the atom have a neutral charge. We have equal amount of negative charge. We have equal amount of positive charge. And if an atom gain electron, it become negative charge. And if an atom lose electron, it become positive charge. So I hope you will understand that how an atom get a positive charge and how the atom get a negative charge. By gaining or losing of electron, the atom will become a negative ion or a positive ion. Okay, so the next topic is insulators and conductors. So what is conductors? An electrical conductor is defined as the material that allow electricity to flow through them easily. So that type of material is known as conductor, the material which allow the electricity to flow through them. So how the material allow the electricity to pass through them? Uh, to understand that, we first have to understand that what are that materials which allow the current to pass through them have electrons on their outermost shell, and these electrons are considered as a free electrons from outermost shell of metal atom. Metals are the most common examples which allow electricity to pass through them. And why they allow electricity to pass through them? Because they have a loosely bonding of electron on their outermost shell. The outermost shell of the metals have free electrons, and it is easy to move that electrons from the atom. So that's why we say that metals allow electricity to pass through them. In a conductor, some of the electrons are loosely bound and can move about freely within the material. And the flow of electron in a conductor is known as electric current. As you can see in a diagram, this is the diagram of atoms which have free electrons. The red small balls are represent the free electrons which are present in the atom of a metal particle, metal material. So metal have a free electron, and that's why the movement of this free electron from the surfaces is known as conductors. That's why this ability of moving an electron is make that particle a conductor. As you can see here, the small blue balls represent with the arrowheads, with the arrow over them. So these are the electrons which are moving in a copper wire. Copper is again a metal, and again it has free electrons on the outermost shell, and when these electrons are moving or placing on the surface, so flowing of these electrons means that particle, that material will become a conductor because it allows the electricity to pass through them. And The second material here is a other picture which also show that it is a picture of a wire in which many electrons are present here, and the arrows show them that they are moving from one place to another. Okay, so that's why we say that the electric current is a measure of the amount of charge or the number of charged particles that pass a point per unit area. Or the charge are most often electrons, but they could be anything an electric charge like protons or ions. But in a very simple word, you just have to concentrate on that thing that a conductor have a free electrons and in their outermost shell, and when these electrons are flowing from one point to another, we said that the electric current is flowing in a conductor. Okay, so take a screenshot of this slide, and now we are moving toward the other slide. Here are some examples of the conductor. As I told you that metal are the good conductor of electricity. And why we say that they are the good conductor of electricity? Because in their outermost shell they have a free electrons. So copper, aluminum, steel, any metal are good conductor of electricity. So that's why in a wires, most of the wires are made by the copper wire or the aluminum wire, and you can see easily that the inner part of the wire is made by a conductor, that is it is made by a metal, and the outer part of the wire is covered with the insulator. Okay, why it covered with the insulator? For the safety measurement. And so what is insulator? First we have to understand that what is insulator. So take a screenshots, and when we are moving toward the next topic, that is about the insulator. Here is the insulator. So insulators are the material that hinder the free flow of electron from one particle of an element to another. As you can see in a diagram, that the outermost shell of the insulators are tightly bound, have a tightly bonding with the other atom. As you can see that we have a pair of electron in the outermost shell, and there is no free electron in the outermost shell, and that is the reason the material will become an insulator, because it does not have any free electron on their outermost shell, and that is the reason that makes the material an insulator. Okay, so insulator are the material that hinder the free flow of electron from one particle of an element to another. If we transfer some amount of charge to such an element at any point, the charge remain at the initial location and does not get disturbed across the surface. Okay, there is no space for the movement of charge, and that's why if we place some charge on the insulator, it will not move. It will remain in their positions, and that's why we say that it is the insulator, because it does not allow electric charge to move across them. The electron and an atom of insulator are bound tightly with the nuclei, and the charge cannot pass through them. I hope you will understand that why some material cannot allow electricity to pass through them. Why can they does not allow? Because they are there is a tightly bonding between the atoms to atom, and there is no free electron, and that's why the electricity cannot pass through the insulator. Okay, take a screenshot of this slide, and now we are moving toward the some examples of the insulator are here, that is plastic, rubber, glass, cloth, wood. These all are the examples of the insulator. And as I told you that the any material that does not allow electric current to pass through it, like the protective coatings on the wire. As I told you that the inner portion of the wire is made up of a metal so that the electricity can pass through them, and the outer part of the wires are covered with the plastic. And why we use it plastic or a rubber? Due to the safety measurements. Okay, take a screenshots, and we will move toward the next slide. So here we have to discuss that how many charges we have. There are only two kinds of charges. Okay, first one is the positive charge, and the second one is the negative charge. And you know very well that as you have observed the magnets, that in our magnets we have south pole and as well as a north pole. Similarly, here we have a positive charge and a negative charge. So in a magnet we have observed that the two similar poles are repel each other, means north pole and north pole when brought in contact, so they will repel each other. Similarly, like charges will also repel each other. Okay, they when we the whether two positive charge are come close to each other, they will repel each other, and when the two negative charge particles come close to each other, they also repel. And when we brought some two opposite charge particle, so they will attract. So these are the charges, and the behavior of these charges is as similar as we have a north pole and south pole of a magnet. So take a screenshot and we are moving to the next one. Electrostatic force. This is the second force which we have to understand. Uh, this force is related to the electricity, electrostatic force. So how we define that electrostatic force? The electrostatic force is an attractive and repulsive force. Okay, as I told you that in a magnet we have some force of attraction and repulsion between the poles, and it depends upon the poles, that if we take two similar poles brought in contact, so they will repel, and if we brought in contact with the two different poles, so it will attract. So similarly, the electrostatic force is also an attractive and repulsive force between particles are caused due to their electric charges. Okay, it depends upon the electric charges, that either we are brought in contact the two similar charges, means positive positive, either we brought in contact the two negative charges, that is negative and negative, and either we brought the two unlike charges, that is positive and negative, so the force will become repulsive. The electric force between a stationary charge body is conventionally known as the electrostatic force. So, that force of attraction and repulsion is known as the electrostatic force, and it is also referred to as a Coulomb's force, and we will later discuss that what is Coulomb force. Now, here is some examples of electrostatic force. Okay, so um, take a screenshot of this slide, and we will also consider some examples of the electrostatic forces. Here are some examples of the electrostatic forces. That in a first, when we take a balloon and rub it with the hair, here has a positive charge, and when we brought in contact the balloon, so the electrons which are present in the balloons will gathered at the surface of the balloons, and the balloons will become a negative charge particle, and hairs will become a positive charge particle. And when we brought the two similar types of balloons in contact, so these two balloons will repel each other. Okay, but when we brought that negative charge balloon toward the hair, so it attract with the hair, and when we place some pieces of paper toward that balloon, so that pieces of paper will attract toward the balloon. So how it happened? Because the paper has a positive charge, and there is a negative charge on the balloons, and that why it attract on the balloons. Similarly, if we rub our comb with some piece of paper, or we rub it on the hairs, and we brought some pieces of paper come close to them, so what will happen, that by rubbing the comb, the charge will appear on the comb, and it attract all the piece of paper toward it, and it is also present due to the electrostatic force. So these things represent us that there is a presence of electrostatic force between the two particles. Now take a screenshots, and we will move toward, I hope you will understand that what is electrostatic force. The force which is exerted between the two charged particles is known as electrostatic force. And now, here is the Coulomb's law. Now, to understand the Coulomb's law, you must have to understand that what is electrostatic force and how they occur. So, the statement of the Coulomb's law is the electrical force between 2 point charges. The electrical force between 2 point charges is directly proportional to the product of the quantity of charge on the object. So, we split the statement into two parts. So, first we have to understand that portion of our Coulomb's law, that the electrical force between 2 point charges is directly proportional to the product of the quantity of charge on the object and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. This is the second part, that force is inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. So do remember it, that we split the statement into two parts. First part is that the electrical force between 2 point charges is directly proportional to the product of the quantity of charge. Okay, so to understand that thing, we must look at here that we brought two positive charge in contact with each other. So the forces are repulsive or attractive? Yes, the forces are repulsive because we have two similar charge. Okay, so as you can see that we have two forces. On the charge q1 we have force F12, and on the charge 2 we have a force F21. So what are these? It is the electrostatic force on the charge q by the charge q2. Okay, I repeat, it is represent the electrostatic force. This F12 represent electrostatic force on the charge q by the charge q2. Okay, I repeat, on the charge q by the charge q2. So that's why we can say that this is F12. It is the electrostatic force of charge Q1. And now here we have F21. It is the electrostatic force on the charge Q2 by the charge Q1. Okay, it is the electrostatic force on the charge Q2 by the charge Q1. So these forces are also present in the form of pairs, that F12 and F21, because Q1 also experience a force by the charge Q2, and the charge Q2 is experience a force by the charge Q1. Okay, that's why we say that we always have these electrostatic force in pairs. And now if we brought two different um, charges, means if we have a one positive charge and if we have a second one is negative charge, so now what will happen? Again, F12 represent a electrostatic force on a charge q1 by the charge q2, and similarly here we have an electrostatic force on the charge q2 by the charge q1. So again we have a pair electrostatic force in the form of pairs. And now, we will discuss that how the Coulomb's first part will affect here. So, Coulomb first part say that electrostatic force is directly proportional to the magnitude of the charges. So, as you can see that Q1 and Q2 are the magnitude, product of the magnitude of the charges. If we have a greater amount of charge, so we have a greater amount of electrostatic force, it is very simple. Okay, here we have either the force is repulsive or attractive, it is doesn't matter, but if the quantity of charge will be increased, so the amount of charge will also be increased. And if you look at that picture, in which in here we also define the similar type of force, that if we have two negative charge, so the forces are repulsive, and if we have two positive charge, so the forces are also repulsive. But if we have two unlike charges, first one is positive and the other is negative, so we have a force of attraction between them. So either the force are repulsive, either the force are attractive. That force is directly proportional to the amount of charge. If we have a greater amount of charge, so we have a greater amount of electrostatic force. And if we have a less amount of charge, so we have a less amount of electrostatic force. Okay, I hope you will understand. Now, the second part of the statement is that the electrostatic force are inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. So as you can see that here we have mentioned that R is the distance between the two charges, and in this diagram also R is the distance between the two charges. So that part you can easily understand if you observe the two magnets and if you place two magnets are very far from each other, so the force of attraction and repulsion is also very less. But if we brought that two magnet come close to each other, so the forces is also increased. Similarly here, if we increase the distance between the two charges, it increases, so the force is less. And if we decrease the distance between the two charges, so the forces is uh, greater, so the force will become greater. So by increasing the distance, force will be decreasing, and by reducing the distance between the two charges, the force of attraction will be increases. So we can say that electrostatic force is directly proportional to the distance between the two charges, or we replaces r square. And why we replace r square? It is because it is directly proportional to the square of the distance between them. It is found experimentally that how it relate with the electrostatic force, that it will be a square or the square root or a simple relation of inversely proportional. It is found by the experiments. So take a screenshot of these slides and we will move toward the next one. And now further we will as you can see that at the bottom of the pictures we have a formula. So that formula is related to the Coulomb's law. It also described by Coulomb's law that F is the electrostatic force and is directly proportional to Q1 and Q2, means product of their magnitude, and inversely proportional to the square of the radius, or we can say square of the distance between them. And now we will, in our next slide, we will derive that formula, that how we get it. Okay, so here's the derivation of the Coulomb's law, and that derivation describes that if Q1 and Q2 are the magnitude of two charges separated by a distance r, so the electrostatic force between them according to this law is F is directly proportional to Q1 and Q2 and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. This is the relation which the Coulomb's law states. Okay, that the electrostatic force is directly proportional to the product of the magnitude of the charge and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. And if we replace that directly proportional sign to the equals to sign, so we get a constant. That K, that capital K is that constant which we get when we replace the directly proportional sign to the equals to sign. So where K is the constant of proportionality, and in SI units its value is, take a screenshot of this slide and when we will move further. The SI unit of this constant K is given as 8.0 into 10 raised to power 9 Newton meter square per Coulomb square. So do remember it, that the SI unit, its value is K is equals to 8.0 into 10 raised to power 9 Newton meter square per Coulomb square, and it is equivalent to the value when we round off that value, so it will become 9 into 10 raised to power 9 Newton meter square or Coulomb square. So I hope you will understand. Take a screenshot of that slide so it will be easy to understand. It is 8.9. The SI unit, its value is 8.9 into 10 raised to power, and now it will be, after the rounding off, it will become K is equals to 9 into 10 raised to power 9. So the constant K is commonly expressed in terms of an other constant epsilon. Yes, here you have to understand something, that the value of K is arises by this formula. K is equals to 1 upon 4 epsilon. So what is that epsilon? Actually, we introduce a new constant epsilon to represent that constant K. And why we use it? Because if we take the two charges in a vacuum, so this is the value of constant of proportionality. If we place the two charges in a vacuum, so that will be the constant of free space, or we can say that epsilon is called the permittivity of a free space. This is the permittivity of a free space. But if medium is not vacuum but a material medium, then we introduce a new medium. Means that if the distance between the two charges is filled by the vacuum, so what will be the value of k? The value of k will be that one. K is equals to 1 upon 4 pi epsilon. Okay. But if the space between the two charges is filled by the material medium, then the new medium constant is introduced here, and this is known as ER, or we can say that epsilon, and it is called a relative permittivity of the medium. It is known as the relative permittivity of the medium. Which medium? Which is placed between the two charges, that medium. Okay. So that formula of Coulomb's law will become F is equals to K 1 upon 4 pi, 4 pi epsilon, means permittivity of a free space epsilon, and permittivity of the medium. So that two constant are will be applied here, and the equation will become Q1 Q2 upon R square. So in place of K, we replace it by the its constant, that is 1 upon 4 pi epsilon, or epsilon R. So take a screenshot, and I hope you will understand that we have expressed the constant k in term of the other constant, that is known as epsilon. And if the distance between the two charges is filled with the vacuum, so this is the formula of a permittivity of free space. But if the space between the two charges are filled by the material medium, then the formula will be like this. Okay. So now we are moving toward our next topic, and that is about the unit of charge. As we have discussed that the unit of charge is equals to, as we have discussed that the unit of charge in SI system is the coulomb. Okay, the unit of charge in the SI system is coulomb. And how we can say that it is 1 coulomb, that in 1 coulomb of charge is that quantity of charge which when placed 1 meter from an identical charge in vacuum, it repel with a force of 8.99 into 10 to the power 9 Newton. Okay, so in a very simple word, what will be the definition of a coulomb? That we take the two charges, either similar charges, either the unlike charges. So if we place the two charges, and what will be the distance? If we place it 1 meter apart from each other, 1 meter. If we place the two charges at a distance of 1 meter, and they experience a force, that amount is 8.9 into 10 to the power 9 Newton. That force will be experienced by both of the charges, and the distance between the two charges are 1 meter. So we can say that it is 1 coulomb of charge. Okay, how we can say that we can say that it is 1 coulomb of charge if the distance between the two charges is 1 meter, and in a vacuum it repel with a force 8.9 into 10 to the power 9 Newton. So that much amount of force will be required between the two charges, and the distance between the two charges is 1 meter. Then we can say that it is equals to the 1 coulomb. It is just a standard. Okay, as we have discussed the standards in kilograms, grams, and milligrams. So here when we introduce a new unit, that is coulomb, so we also need some standard, that what will be the standard of that coulomb, and the standard of that coulomb is 1 meter from an identical charge in vacuum. It repel with a force of 8.9 into 10 to the power 9 Newton. So take a screenshot, and do remember it that the unit of charge in SI system is coulomb. Take a screenshot of this slide so that we will move forward. So here is the home task, that write down the difference between the insulator and a conductor. Okay, write down the differences between the insulator and a conductor, and state and explain Coulomb's law. Okay, you can also you can find differences from the book and try to write a three differences from of insulator and conductor. State and explain Coulomb's law. So in this question, you have to write down the statement and explanation. So in an explanation, you have to drive the formula of a electrostatic force. Okay, so the whole derivation is included in the answer of that question. Now define 1 coulomb and electrostatic force. Means you have to define 1 coulomb force, which we have discussed in our slides, and you have to define the electrostatic force. And do remember one thing, that when you define the electrostatic force, you must write the formula and unit of this force. So all these 3 questions you have to do in your fair copies. I hope you will understand all the lecture of today lecture, and it is all from my side. Allah Hafiz.